I was 17 when my leg broke during the regional track finals. Not a sprain, not a twist, an unmistakable snap echoed across the stadium as I hit the ground, overwhelmed by pain and fear. The ambulance ride was a fog of sirens, tears, and dazed silence. I had devoted the entire year to training for that race. It was meant to be my shot at a full scholarship. Scouts, coaches, and cameras were there, but instead of a victory, they saw me taken away on a stretcher, miles from the finish line I'd dreamed of crossing. At the hospital, I kept asking for my parents. I was cold and afraid, craving the comfort of someone familiar. I imagined them rushing through the emergency room doors, arms open, saying, "We're here, you're okay." But they never showed up. Instead, a nurse named Kelsey held my hand as the doctors set the fracture and placed the metal rod. Under anesthesia, I dreamed of my mother smoothing my hair or my father pacing the hallway. But when I finally came to, all I had was a voicemail. "Hey, sweetheart," my mom's voice chirped. "We can't come. Emily's college orientation got bumped up, and she's nervous. It's a big day. You'll be fine. You've always been tough. Love you." That was all. No hospital visit, no flowers, no questions about how bad it was, not even a photo of my dog to lift my spirits. Emily had always been the golden child, straight A's, trophies, the girl who got a car for making honor roll. I didn't resent her. In truth, I admired her, but I always felt like the backup act. That injury made it undeniable. They didn't even acknowledge it online. No pray for our daughter, no wristband photo, no emojis. But Emily's orientation? That got a full photo spread, her smiling with her dorm map, captioned, "So proud. Next stop, greatness." And me? I spent 4 months on crutches, completely forgotten. I was left in the care of Mrs. Du Bois, our elderly neighbor. She brewed me tea, helped me hobble to the bathroom, and even covered the cost of a home therapist when my insurance denied it. I called my parents once, hoping they might finally realize how serious it was. My dad answered, "We'll come by after we're done on campus. You're okay, right?" The pause that followed made me doubt my own suffering. I stopped calling after that. Instead, I started writing. I chronicled the pain, the therapy sessions, the milestones I met alone. I recorded what it felt like to attend checkups by myself, to need a stranger's help to bathe, to shuffle to the mailbox just to prove I still could. But something else broke on that track. Besides my leg, my belief that family support was unconditional, because clearly, it wasn't. Then one day, an envelope arrived. I'd been accepted into a local state university with a solid kinesiology program, fueled, ironically, by my new obsession with healing. I wanted to learn how the body worked, how to restore it, how to rebuild myself. I promised I would walk across that graduation stage on my own terms. When I shared the news, my mom's reply was, "That's cute. Maybe you'll transfer to Emily's school someday." What she didn't know was I'd already turned that option down. I didn't want to chase her shadow anymore. I wanted a different horizon, one I carved myself. College wasn't glamorous. While Emily flaunted sorority life in soft-filtered selfies, I juggled evening shifts at a smoothie bar with morning PT and long nights studying with a heating pad on my still sore leg. My dorm smelled like sweat and ramen. My roommates were strangers, but it was mine, and I had stopped waiting to be seen. The pain I carried, physical, emotional, silent, started to shift. It didn't vanish, but it evolved. It became drive. I turned my injury into my purpose. I majored in human movement, zeroing in on injury rehabilitation. One semester, I wrote a paper on medical neglect during recovery, using my own story as an unnamed case study. When my professor read it, she teared up. She nominated it for a national undergrad award. 2 years later, I presented it at a conference in Chicago. The applause echoed, not because I was finally being noticed, but because I had created something worth attention. Meanwhile, Emily's online presence started to shift. The shiny, smiling posts gave way to cryptic captions like "finding out who's real and trust is earned." Word was, she dropped out, something about not getting into her dream program and clashing with a roommate. And back home, the family dynamics slowly began to tilt. My parents stayed silent until my name hit the dean's list for the 4th straight semester and a cousin casually mentioned it in the family group chat. Then, Out of nowhere, my mom texted, "Why didn't you tell us, sweetheart? That's amazing." I remember just staring at the screen, half laughing. I had told them back then, when it still mattered. They just weren't listening. So I responded with a screenshot of the old voicemail, the one where Emily's college orientation was more important than my hospital bed. They didn't write back. That summer, I landed an internship at a top-tier rehabilitation center. I worked with stroke survivors, recovering athletes, and even a double amputee relearning to walk with prosthetics. Somewhere in that daily rhythm of effort and empathy, I found peace. The pain had transformed into purpose. I wasn't just mending anymore, I was helping others rise. By fall, Emily was back at home. No one explained why, and her once curated social media presence had gone radio silent. I never asked, but one day, I got a message from her. Just one sentence, "How did you keep going?" I didn't reply, not right away. I was busy building something real. I graduated with honors, landed scholarships, and was accepted into one of the state's top doctorate programs in physical therapy. My final research project? A scalable system for low-cost recovery care, modeled on the one I created when my own family left me to cope alone. At 24, I co-founded a startup with 2 colleagues, a mobile clinic initiative that brought therapy and rehab resources to rural and underserved areas. Soon, my name was appearing in press features, on podcasts, even on the guest list for a TEDx event. And still, my parents said nothing. Not until a health magazine ran a profile with the headline, "From Abandonment to Advocacy, One Woman's Journey to Redefine Recovery." That same day, they posted the article on Facebook. Caption, "So proud of our daughter. She's always been strong." I didn't feel anger, not sorrow, either, just detachment, like I was watching 2 strangers applaud a story they hadn't bothered to read. Then came the curveball I never saw coming. An application arrived at my company, same last name. I thought it was coincidence, until I opened the cover letter. "I'm eager to support recovery efforts in overlooked communities. I'm seeking a second chance to do something that matters." It was Emily. She had no idea I was the one behind the company, but her words stopped me cold, not because I wanted revenge, but because the universe had handed me a choice. What I did next would shape more than her path, it would shape mine. I scheduled the interview. She walked in looking smaller, not physically, just dimmed. Her confidence, the glow she used to carry, had faded. She didn't realize who I was until I stepped into the room and said her name. "You're the CEO?" she whispered. "I'm the founder," I said. "Built it after the accident, remember?" She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. And that's when I understood, I didn't need to knock her down. Life already had. The real question now was, who was I going to be, with everything I'd built? So I hired her. Not out of pity, but because I still believed in growth, and not just hers, mine. She started where I had, answering phones, cleaning therapy equipment, shadowing quietly, and to her credit, she did the work. She didn't complain when patients ignored her. She didn't flinch when she stood in the corner at my surprise birthday celebration and realized what being left out really felt like. One evening, after a long day at a mobile clinic site, she sat beside me in the van, quiet, then softly, she said, "I should have been there when you fell. I'm sorry." I didn't answer, not in words. Instead, I handed her a photo, my old X-ray, the one with the metal rod, with a note taped on it. "Sometimes the worst breaks become the strongest foundations." She looked at it for a long time, then nodded. Time passed. We weren't best friends. We didn't talk about the past, but we weren't at war anymore either. We became something harder to define, 2 people who had seen each other's lowest points and still chose to show up, day after day. Then, the final twist. Our company won a federal grant to expand nationally. I was invited to speak on a televised panel. As the anchor introduced me, the founder who turned abandonment into impact, the camera panned across the crowd. There, in the 3rd row, were my parents. Clapping, smiling, their applause careful, performative, as if hoping to still claim a piece of a story they never helped build. But I didn't feel triumph or vengeance. Because I hadn't just stood back up. I had moved forward. And I never turned around.